as the Sounders try to take first place away from the Whitecaps. The Whitecaps kick it off, and it comes all the way to the back wall to John Craven. So let's give you the starting lineups for tonight's games. First for Vancouver, the goalie who has the ball, Phil Parks, wearing number 1. The back line will be Steve Harrison, Sam Lenarduzzi, John Craven, and Bob Belytho. At midfield, number 14, Steve Kember, number 8, John Samuels, and number 7, Buzz Parsons. And on the front line, number 20, Alan Hinton, number 5, Bob Lenarduzzi, and number 11, Kevin Hector. Now for the Sounders who have the ball, with Buttle there in the middle to Jockey Scott. And goal tonight, Tony Chersky, wearing number 1. The back line will be Jimmy McAllister, Mike England, Bobby Howe, and Adrian Webster. The midfield, Gordon Wallace, Steve Buttle, and Bruce Rudroff, who got his first goal last Sunday against Los Angeles. And on the front wall, number 2, Jockey Scott, number 12, Mickey Cave, and number 18, Tommy Ord. Bruce Rudroff is in the middle of the field there and flanks it out to the left to Buttle and McAllister, who run into each other. Buttle maintains possession. McAllister lays it back to Rudroff. He can hit from there at the 35-yard stripe, and that's where he scored one against the Los Angeles Aztecs last week. And he has a strong leg.
He's got a cannon for a shot, and I think the coaches are just really pleased with what's been happening the last 2 or 3 games.
Bill Parks with it. He's 30 years of age, 6'3", 190 pounds. Looks out for Parsons. Howe heading it twice for Rudroff. Tries to send it forward to Scott, and it's picked off by Samuels of Vancouver. On the wing to Harrison. Harrison to Kember. Kember doing a nice job of dribbling out of traffic. And a long cross-court pass from Hinton to Belytho. Sends it back to Bob Lenarduzzi. McAllister fronts him, and they give it to Samuels. Samuels just across the 35. Looks forward to Hinton. Goes out over Bobby Howe's head, and they ruled that it will be a Seattle throw-in. Evidently, Howe nor Alan Hinton touched the ball. So Howe will put it in play to Wallace on the touch line. And back to Jockey Scott. Horn and Aberdeen. Webster to Jockey Scott. That's Aberdeen, Scotland. On the wing to Bob Lenarduzzi. Lenarduzzi across to 35. He sends it forward to Hector. Hector turns around with a shot, and Chersky makes the save. You've got to watch that, Hector. That's the second time he's almost sizzled one by Chersky there today.
He can turn very quickly, and that's the assignment that the defender has. He must not let a player of Hector's stature turn. He's got to force him away, channel him out to the side, or channel him someplace where he can get help from a teammate.
Hinton for Vancouver, Rudroff and Kember battling for it. There's Wallace high for it, but Kember wins that little battle and sends it back to Sam Lenarduzzi. 5'10", 165-pound brother of Bob. There's a pass for Parsons. Takes it on one hop and back to Samuels. Samuels again looking for Hector. Webster there to keep him away from it. McAllister. And Vancouver right now owning territorially. Buzz Parsons with it on the wing to Bob Lenarduzzi. That's McAllister trying to take it away from him. Nice pass to Parsons, and he sent it back to Belytho. Samuels. Again to Belytho on the return pass, and Buttle knocks it out over the touchline. Vancouver throw in.
Tony Waiters has got Vancouver Whitecaps much better organized this year, Steve. He came in late in the season last year, but he's got this team just very well organized.
Cave on the wing to Gordon Wallace. Ahead for Buttle. Buttle in the penalty box. Now we'll try to center it. Goes the other side for a shot. And Ord there tried to maybe send it back again. Is that what he tried to do?
Tried to nick it back out, although I think if he'd have had the right angle on it, he'd have gone for the back of the net. But just a little bit of an awkward position there, and he didn't quite get the meat on it that he wanted.
Steve Harrison was the man marking Tommy Ord, and the ball was laid beautifully to the far post by Steve Buttle over Phil Parks' hands.
That's something for attackers to keep in mind, too, when they realize, even though it's in the last second, that ball isn't, that they can't get it in, then they'll pass it back.
Hector again with the shot. Chersky on the save, but Hector with a sizzling shot that time, and it was sinking rapidly.
And that shot is the kind of shot with a lot of spin on it. It's kind of swinging away from the keeper. It can do crazy things. So Tony had to actually make a very difficult save at that point.
Coming into the game, Kevin Hector, who's 32 years of age, played with Derby County last year. He's a British citizen. He had 23 shots on goal. So he's done a lot of the striking work so far for Vancouver. Alan Hinton. Back to Samuels on the far side, to Hinton again, and he lays it back to John Craven. And Craven lays it back to Sam Lenarduzzi, to his brother Bob. There comes pressure from Jockey Scott. Ahead for Hector, as Cave tries to take it away from Bob Lenarduzzi. Sliding tackle by Webster, nice play. Buttle across midfield, leaves it off for Mickey Cave. He's got Jockey Scott on the left, and he gives it to him. Jockey Scott at the edge of the box. Tries to drive around Sam Lenarduzzi. Nice play. In front for Wallace for a shot that's over the top.
Unlucky. Absolutely unlucky.
Wallace going for the attic.
That play was so well set up. The build-up was beautiful, and you can see Tommy Ord bring the defender in. He attracted to the ball, and Gordon Wallace came in the weak side unmarked. So it was just a matter of angle. If he'd have been able to catch that just a little bit higher, the ball would have gone down and into the net. Beautiful opportunity. And it's one that young Gordon will see many times during the next 24 hours.
Parsons with it. So both teams, it's a pretty exciting match so far. Both teams having a couple of opportunities to get on the scoreboard. Lenarduzzi ahead to Balaitho. Looking for Hector again. That's Webster on him. Back to Balaitho. Sets one up. Chersky out of the net, and nice play by Tony Chersky. Like a center fielder, he played that one.
And these opportunities early in the game are not coming up because of mistakes.
McAllister takes the pass from Chersky. McAllister he just seems to be getting better and better all the time.
This is Jimmy's sophomore season. It's altogether possible that he'll have some games that are a little more inconsistent than we saw him play last year. On the other hand, as Jimmy Gabriel was saying earlier on in the season, Jimmy possesses something that he wishes every defender he had really had in abundance, and that is incredible speed.
A shot, and it's being battled for, and it is out over the top of the bar. You know what this had shades of? It was almost like Steve Hunt coming down the wing in the Soups in Soccer Bowl for
That ball was
Canolia.
saved by the defender. Now there's a perfect example in the replay where a defender checks back the weak side of the goalkeeper, protects the line, and any young defender or any young soccer player, whether he's a defender or anybody else, if he sees that line open and the goalkeeper goes out, he should camp on that spot. And there's a perfect example of how a goal was prevented simply because he was there to leap up and do his job.
It was Hector who made the shot, got a beautiful pass from Harrison. Vancouver to this point probably has the closer calls of the two teams as far as shots on goal. And they have controlled the tempo here in the last 3 or 4 minutes. Hinton looking for Hector again, England. And now it's Hector, and they dribble it in. It's a goal for Vancouver. And it was Kevin Hector. Kevin Hector scoring in the 32nd minute. And that's the first goal against Seattle since Vancouver pulled it last July.
All right, now we're seeing the replay. This is a situation where the ball was just popped over. It was like a Texas leaguer in baseball. Hector came in, and instead of trying to blast it past to Tony Chersky, he just nicked it. He saw Tony's foot hit the ground and just pushed it by his planted foot, which of course is a very good lesson for attackers to keep in mind. If they can just forget about that power drive and do what is technically required, which in that case was simply push the ball past the keeper and let the momentum of the ball carry it on into the net.
All right, Seattle finds itself down for the first time in nearly 10 months at the Kingdome. It's Vancouver leading Seattle 1-0. And the man who scored it, getting his 6th goal of the year, was Kevin Hector. All All right, that's Rudroff. Seattle trying to come from behind now. There's Hector again. He has really been open tonight. I mean, he's really gotten a lot of shots on goal, and Seattle really has not made the adjustment on him, have they?
Well, what's happening here, Steve, is Vancouver is keeping their defense and their midfield in a negative posture. They're letting them camp back there. There we see a foul. That was a more violent kind of foul. A player coming up, he really didn't have access to the ball, but he went for it anyway, and that's always going to result in a foul. But the point being that they're running the two front men through. They're playing a 4-4-2. They're not really concentrating too much on getting that third man up there. Alan Hinton on the left wing moves up occasionally, but only to serve the ball into the penalty area. So in doing so, they're really just relying on those two players to draw Seattle forward, run them through, and put them one-on-one, and they're saying that they can get the goal they need for that for this game.
Well, they have their one goal. Will they try to sit on that?
Not any more than they normally would. They're not playing a very liberal attacking game. They're not a positive attacking team at all. They're simply waiting for their opportunities, and they'll say, if we can break a player loose one-on-one, we'll take our chances.
All right, here comes Vancouver again as they broke up that last Seattle rush. It's Hector back to Leonard or Balaitho. Back to Sam Leonarduzzi.
What they will do.
Now, what will Seattle do now to try to pick things up as Vancouver has owned the last 5 or 6 minutes?
Seattle won't do too much differently right now than they have been doing because they know there's considerable time left. The big mistake for Seattle would be to begin to run in a kind of panic way at Vancouver, attempting to double up on a player, 2-on-1. They'll continue to keep the pace they've got. They can make some adjustments at halftime, get a little more accurate passing on their own attack, and then if it's still a goal difference on down into the match, that's when they'll start to risk a few things, and they'll push 2 or 3 people up. Also, they'll attempt to put a couple of people on the ball carrier.
Buttle comes back to take it away from Alan Hinton as Seattle tries to get something going. They've been losing balls lately. Buttle with it. And Vancouver is really playing extremely well. They're a very impressive soccer club. I saw them in the playoff game last year that Seattle won, and Seattle played one of its best games last year against Vancouver in Empire Stadium. There's Wallace with a shot, and Parks takes it on one hop. Phil Parks.
And they're not going to take anything from the fans. They won't care about the booing or the hissing. They're going to play a very deliberate game, and if they have to go back there 200 or 300 times or set a picnic table and have themselves a feast, they'll do it.
Nice pass to Balaitho along the box. Tries to slice through. McAllister putting pressure from behind. Chersky scoops up the ball. He gives it to Bobby Howe. Howe ahead to Jockey Scott. To Rudroff. And he gets banged up by Kimber. No call. Rudroff there, though, maintains his balance. He's a large young man and can hold his own physically out in the field.
Bruce is a very strong player, and he's coming into his own.
Now, I don't know if we can pull back any farther on this camera, but the Vancouver defense is stretched up in a 4-4 wall in the back. And they'll take it back to Parks. But they've got 4 players along the penalty box line, and then 4 other players up near the midfield or the 35-yard stripe. So they've essentially got 9 men all bunched up in between the end line and the 35 defensively. Sam Leonarduzzi getting it ahead to Hector. McAllister on him. Back heel pass nicely to Leonarduzzi in the box.
Out.
Chersky will come out. The ball's batted away by Chersky, and Webster has it. And Vancouver is finding little areas of daylight, and right now are completely outplaying Seattle in the last 10 or 15 minutes.
Exactly. Well, we'll see on the replay here. Again, it's an isolated player. Well, we didn't quite see the buildup on there, but you can see again where that goalkeeper has to abandon any thought of himself and come right into the teeth of the bullet. He's got to bite it hard there because he's going to get a set of shoelaces. That's what a goalkeeper has to do many times when a breakthrough like that occurs.
Leonarduzzi back to Parks once again.
And you can bet that Vancouver isn't going to get the least bit worried about the boos that we're hearing in the background. because their game plan is very obvious. They're just going to be very deliberate, very patient. They're going to look for those isolation situations, one-on-one, and take their chances with that.
All right, the foul is against Sam Lenarduzzi. Rudroff will put it down. And there's Adrian Webster. There's Rudroff there. Webster will come forward for the kick and lays it up towards Tommy Ord. Ord gets it on the wing for Buttle now. And Blytho goes back to try and get it away. And it will be what?
Field goal,
a goal kick. The last man to touch it was Stevie Buttle.
That's just a case of very clever shielding of the ball, and there's a fine line between obstruction and shielding the ball. If he uses his body to purposely block that attacker or that defender trying to get around and get the ball, then it would be an obstruction call. But he knew it was going out of bounds. He just had to play his moves properly so the referee wouldn't call an obstruction.
Mike England laying it back, intended for McAllister. Lenarduzzi picks it off. There's Kember with it. And the ricochet comes back to Vancouver as Harrison on the wing. Jockey Scott in pursuit. They get it ahead to Alan Hinton. And we have a player down, and it is Kember.
Yeah, I think he got one on the solar plexus. The referee's trying to decide whether he'll stop play. And this is something maybe we can comment on just very quickly. When a player goes down, the official has to make a decision whether to let play continue, knowing that the player may be just out of breath or winded or whatever, but he has to continue to look at that player until such time that he determines that he really needs assistance.
Jockey Scott with it now with 1:40 to go in the half. Ahead to Tommy Orr, plays it off the chest nicely. Back to Buttle. And now look at that Vancouver. There's the wide shot. You can see the Vancouver defense and how it is set up.
Yeah, they really go back into almost a 5-3 posture when they get back in there if people like to figure numbers.
Bobby Howe being pursued by Parsons, ahead for Cave, and it's out over the touchline. And now with 1:15 to go.
That presupposes that there's fitness, that the team has worked hard, and Tony Waiters is known for his discipline. He wants a team to be very fit and very disciplined, and we're seeing an example of that right now.
The ball is tossed down in the corner where Webster retrieves, now with under a minute to play in the half. Back to Chersky. Mike England with it. With 45 seconds to go. Seattle goes into the half 1-0. What do you think Jimmy Gabriel will be talking about?
Well, obviously he'll want the players to close Vancouver down a little more channeling of the man with the ball, so that they can get possession in the Vancouver attacking area, or the Vancouver defensive area rather. And he may encourage Seattle to shift just a little bit, throw an extra player up into the attack and go for the long ball.
All right, Webster now with 15 seconds to Rudroff. In the middle for Jockey Scott. Leaves it back for Wallace or they get confused on the play. And now Vancouver, Samuels with it. On the wing to Hinton with 4 seconds to go in the half. And I don't think we'll have any other scoring the rest of this half, as time runs out. So we've come to the end of the first half here from the Kingdome with the score Seattle 0 and Vancouver 1. And at 31-51, Vancouver got the goal with Kevin Hector scoring as he trickled it past the outstretched arms of Tony Chersky, and he got the assist from Alan Hinton. That was again at 31-51. Vancouver leading 1-0. And so now let's go down to the field with Keith Dysert.
Thank you, Steve. I'm standing here with Derek Posse of the Vancouver Whitecaps, unhappily injured tonight. Derek, what happened?
Well, on Friday in training, we was running through a few things about the Portland game on the Sunday, and I sprinted off and pulled up a bit quick, and then my hamstring tore slightly.
Derek, you were a very active player up there in the first Whitecaps Sounders match. Would you like to be out here tonight?
Well, I was really looking forward to tonight. I'm very disappointed not to be out there.
Don't you look to a real solid, aggressive match?
Well, all the games against Seattle are always hard, solid games, and that's what I expect tonight.
How many first division games in England do you have, Derek?
Oh, I don't know. To be honest, I don't know.
I'm told it's more than 250.
Well, it's getting up that way, yeah.
And now you've been 2 years in the NASL?
Well, this is my second year, yeah. I had 3 months at the back end of last season.
A question we're asked all the time. Compare English First Division soccer with NASL soccer in 1978.
Well, it's more enjoyable, the NSAL. The English soccer at the moment has got a little bit too tight, too defensive, whereas in the NASL it's really good open soccer.
And Vancouver off to a running start. You think the Sounders will catch you?
Well, I don't like to predict, but we're at the top and we're looking to stay there.
Thank you very much, Derek.
All right, this beautiful young lady I have here just won herself a Volkswagen Rabbit by kicking a ball, as you can see in the replay, right through the center of the hole. I think maybe people ought to know that your name is Linda George, and we thank you for coming up here just for a minute or two. Maybe you'll agree to go in and help us score a goal in the second half. Do you think you'd do that, Linda?
Oh, I sure hope so.
How did you feel when that ball went through the hole?
Shocked. I was surprised it went through.
Are you a soccer player?
Mm-hmm.
Are you playing on a women's team here in the area?
Yes, I do.
Well, I'll bet you that team's going to have a celebration that will end all celebrations. We congratulate you.
Thank
Have
you.
fun in your car.
Thank you.
Keep kicking those balls in the net.
All right, Seattle down 1-0, gets the kickoff here to start the second half. Buttle gives it back to McAllister. Let's briefly look at the first half statistics. Vancouver had 9 shots to Seattle's 7. Fouls evened up at 6. Corner kicks, Seattle had 3, Vancouver nothing. And offsides was neither team offside. There's Ord. Ord sends a sizzling shot to Parks, who takes it on one hop. It would have been tough for Ord to score from that angle. Parks had it well covered.
That's the kind of situation where you can hope for a rebound. A hard enough shot will bounce out. We can see on the replay he does bobble it just a little. And if another player could have gotten there just a step earlier, Mickey Cave could have been there, he might have had a second crack at it.
Parks going for his 4th straight shutout. Ord, nice pass in the middle to Rudroff. And there's Kimber coming back to take it away. Sends it back to Parks. And that ball was heading with a little bit of steam towards Phil Parks. It's still 1-0. Vancouver scoring at 31-51. As Kevin Hector ran onto a pass from the left wing from Alan Hinton and tripled the ball past a diving Tony Chersky. Gordon Wallace in the middle, gets to Scott. The opening seconds here, Seattle trying to generate the offense. McAllister. Vancouver with 10 men in their own half of the field. Sends it forward to Ord. Nice pass back to Wallace. Wallace cuts it across the 35. Ball taken away nicely by Samuels. John Samuels, 5'10", 160 pounds. Played with Leicester City last year. He's a British citizen. And Vancouver with possession of the ball. As the chant of Sounders goes up from the partisan crowd here at the Kingdome, there's Parsons. To Hector, back to Parsons along the 35. Get it to Hector. Hector in along the box. Adrian Webster marks him. Hector now along the penalty box with a shot. Chersky makes the save.
Well, he sure finds the holes in that line, doesn't he?
McAllister out of his own end. Looks for Ord at midfield. Plays it off the thigh. Being pressured by Samuels to Buttle, to England. England lays it back for Rudroff. And to Bobby Howe on the wing. Howe to Mike England, chips it forward for Buttle. Buttle drives around one man. Comes forward across the 35 now and lays it to Jockey Scott. Scott gets by Craven. Headed with Harrison to the corner. It's knocked out of bounds, and it's a throw-in for Seattle. Harrison doing a nice job of kicking the ball out over the touchline instead of over the end line where it would have been a Seattle corner. Mickey Cave will take the throw-in now. There he is, Mickey Cave, 30 points last year. Looks for England, gets the ball back into the middle, and he was going for Wallace. It's a corner kick for Seattle. Their 4th of the night. As England tried to either get it to Jockey Scott or Wallace.
Just tried to nick it on and hoping that in the confusion another player would come through and finish it off in the net.
Steve Buttle with an in-swinger. Here he comes. He's going to the far post. Parks out of the net, and he bats the ball loose as Hinton kicks it out over the touchline. So in the early 3 or 4 minutes of this half, Seattle is putting the pressure on Vancouver to try to get the equalizer.
Now Seattle is much more constructive in the opening minutes. They're going right at Vancouver, one touching the ball through a little bit more than they did the first half. So we should see some opportunities develop here right off the bat.
Ford in heavy traffic for Howe. Howe far side. He's got Cade for a shot that's wide.
Unlucky, unlucky situation. Oh my goodness. Mickey saying, please give me one more crack at that. Now we'll see in the replay, that ball went over the weak side man. Here's Mickey, he's lining up with the ball, takes the shot, it caught just a little bit of the AstroTurf, and that's what caused it to go awry. If he'd have caught that ball on a full volley just before it hit the turf, it would have been beautiful to see. I dare say it would have been right smack in the back of the net.
All right, there's Hector with the ball as Vancouver tries to counter quickly. Wallace gives chase to Kember. Along the touchline, Seattle breaks it up. Mickey Cave pressured by Samuels, and we have a foul. It could be on Cave for backing into the Vancouver player.
I think the ball went out of bounds over there, Steve, and it'll be a Vancouver throw-in.
It was Blytho and Cave battling for it. Blytho will take the throw-in to the 35 to Hector. Hector tries to get around Webster. In trouble, gets out of it. Nice job by Hector. Hector across to Samuels. Samuels on the wing to Hinton. Hinton tries to send a shot to the far side, and that could have been trouble for Chersky.
There again, if Hinton, and he plays on AstroTurf up in Vancouver, if Alan Hinton had taken just a little bit more out of that curving ball into the net, could have been one of those catchers that just kind of nicks the net. Would have been a lot closer if he had it.
Harrison with it. Buttle gives chase. And it is Howe, the last man to touch it. It goes out over the touchline. And a throw in for the Whitecaps. Actually, it's a free kick. They ruled that Howe was roughing up Alan Hinton. It's a free indirect kick for Vancouver. That's Alan Hinton. 5'10", 160 pounds. Played with Dallas last year. He's also an assistant coach. He has 1 goal on the year. To Kember. Cave tries to break it up. Can Cave win the ball? He does. Back to Wallace. Wallace across midfield. It's 4-on-4. Vancouver dropping back quickly on defense. As Wallace starts in across the 35 to Mickey Cave. Cave forward, looks for Ord in the middle. It's headed out nicely by Craven and cleared by Kember. Buttle takes the ball about 40 yards from the goal mouth and tries to start in with Buzz Parsons marking. Buttle across the 35. Ahead to Ord. Back to Buttle. Buttle tripped up by Leonard Uzi, and will we have a penalty, a foul? We will.
It's outside the penalty box, and that's really all that defender knew he could do. Stevie Buttle, using the wall pass technique, had moved in. He got the ball back, and if Leonard Uzi hadn't tripped him at that point, he'd have had a dead-on shot at the net.
Seattle putting the pressure on right now. The 4-man wall in front for Vancouver. Now Parsons will make it 5. Around the ball is Mickey Cave, nearest to you. In the middle, Jockey Scott and Gordon Wallace on the far side. Scott forward with it, tries to chip it, and it's to Wallace. Wallace finds Buttle in the seam, and it's cleared by Vancouver, but picked off in the garbage by Howe. Howe to Webster on the far side of the 35. Reverses field, now heads towards to the wing to get it to Bruce Rudroff. Being battled with Blytho, and Blytho takes it away. He'll send it back to Phil Parks. So Vancouver's defense still stingy. They have not allowed a goal in 3 games. They're going on their 4th game here. Buttle back to England. To Gordon Wallace. Ahead to Tommy Ord. Ord in across the 35 on the edge of the penalty box. Starts in. Tries to find a man. He's in heavy traffic. Ord tripped up. And this will be a foul on Vancouver, presumably on Craven, John Craven, and I think maybe Tommy Orr doing just a little bit of acting there.
Yeah, that was a very good job of acting, and that's necessary at times like that. He's in a crowd, and you notice that in his act, he went flying right into the penalty.